Chapter 10. A new spring arrived. The wind began to blow down from the mountains. At first it was cold, but then it softened and swept away the clouds, the smoke, and the dust of the city. The arrival of spring's breeze made us smile. Strange flowers and weeds came up in the broken pavement of the courtyard. When we came out of the workshop at lunchtime, we were greeted with that good fresh air scent. Mohammed lay in the sun and stammered with simple happiness. Kareem lay in the sun and grumbled because he was afraid the master was mad at him. Twig was more stick-like than before because his hand had healed and he had to work like the rest of us. Little Ali had grown like a mushroom over the winter, so he was no longer really our little Ali. And this was our big news of that spring day. Iqbal ran away again, and this time we knew he'd make it to freedom. We had worked throughout the winter. Every night, by light of pieces of candle Kareem and Twig had managed to steal from the master's house, Maria taught us how to read. She wouldn't stand for any nonsense. Even reluctant Salman and lazy Kareem were subject to her drive to teach. Our blackboard was the dirt floor, smoothed over with our hands. Our pencil was a pointed stick that we used to draw letters of the alphabet, which we then had to repeat over and over. "I don't understand anything," Kareem complained. He'd gotten confused after the 3 letters. "I'll never learn." "Be patient, you. You have to know how to read to ever be free," insisted Maria, and she made him repeat everything again. She taught us how to read, and we taught her how to speak again. Maria's father was a school teacher in Faisalabad province. Her mother died when she was very young, and she'd always played with dusty old illustrated books. We had learned to read almost by herself. Her father was almost as poor as the poor farmers who sporadically sent their sons to him. "Your children mustn't be ignorant," the teacher always explained. "Otherwise they'll end up as poor and downtrodden as you. Do you want that for them?" "No, sir," the farmers answered. They did respect the schoolteacher, and they did believe what he said. But times were what they were, and the children had to help out at home or in the field, or in service to the master. There was no time for school. "Go teach rich people's children," the farmers suggested. "Schooling is for the rich." But Maria's father never wanted to go to the rich. That is, until he finally had to ask for help from the village moneylender. And then he had to ask again. The second time he came home and didn't say another word, and the next morning some men came to take Maria away. Her father didn't even lift his head from the cot where he was lying. From that moment Maria stopped talking and reading. Now she was teaching herself again, as she taught us the strange symbols of the alphabet. "What's your real name?" we asked her immediately. "My name's Maria," she answered slowly, bringing out the right words one by one. "You named me. You're my family." A year had passed since Iqbal's arrival, and something had changed. Before, we were a group of children facing the same sad fate, each of us just trying to survive. Now we were united, strong, friends, and something more. Maria's efforts were greatly rewarded one night when we finally managed to decipher the handout Iqbal had brought back from his first escape. It seemed as if suddenly and miraculously all those little marks we had drawn on the sand, those strange, incomprehensible pothooks, assumed meaning. We saw a sentence form on the paper, all by itself. I swear we didn't do anything. It just came together and it told us things. I remember my heart beating like crazy. I couldn't believe my eyes. This, then, was reading. I looked at something dead, and suddenly it came to life and it spoke to you like a person. We yelled, "Hooray!" and then we scurried back to our beds, because of course we had awakened the mistress. We read the flyer out loud so many times I can still remember what was written. Stop the exploitation of child labor. In Pakistan, more than 700,000 children live like slaves, forced to work in the fields, in the brick-making kilns, in the carpet factories, for greedy and unscrupulous masters. They are chained, beaten, tortured in every way. They work from sunrise to sunset. For their work, they sometimes receive 1 rupee a day. More often, not even that. Their masters get rich selling their prized carpets to foreign buyers. The police know what's going on and don't intervene because of corruption. But now there's a law in our country that makes these clandestine factories illegal. Their owners should be arrested. Let's make them comply with the law. Let's end this shameful and terrible crime which exploits our children and dishonors our country. Our children have the right to be free children. Join with us. Fight with us. Bonded Labor Liberation Front of Pakistan. And at the bottom of the flyer, there was the address we had looked for, too. Now the problem was how to get there. The brawl broke out without warning, while everyone was calmly enjoying the sunshine. When explaining the brawl to Hussein, some said that Mohammed, who was clumsy, had bumped into Salman, spilling Salman's bowl of lentil soup. Others said that Salman, who always tended to bully people, had started to tease Mohammed about his big feet, and that the boy from the mountains had lost his temper. Whatever the cause, within a minute they were really going at it, and before Kareem could say stop, the fight had drawn in all the children. Some were on Salman's side, some were on Mohammed's, and some just enjoyed the opportunity of screaming and acting out. We girls played our part enthusiastically, running around the courtyard, screeching like fools and raising dust. The mistress dropped the big pot of soup she was carrying, spilling lentils every which way, and moved on her big fat legs toward the house, calling her husband. Hussein Khan appeared at the door in his undershirt, his mouth and mustache greasy from his lunch. "Stop it! Stop!" he shouted. It took more than 10 minutes to calm everyone down, and another 10 minutes for the collective scolding, complete with the usual threats. Hussein sentenced Mohammed and Salman to a day in the tomb, and dragged them down those familiar steps, while they continued to insult each other loudly. He then returned to his interrupted meal as the rest of us cleaned up the courtyard. When we finished, Kareem made us line up like so many little soldiers to go back into the workshop. After we started work, he slowly checked on everything. Then he went outside, thought for a moment, scratched his head, and spat in the dust 2 or 3 times. Taking his time, he strolled across the courtyard, hiking up his pants as he walked, and knocked on the master's door. Then, to a shocked and angry Hussein Khan, he broke the news that one worker was missing. Iqbal had taken advantage of the confusion to climb over the wall at the back of the courtyard. He took the path through the gardens and escaped again. He had just a small lead over his pursuers, but it would be enough.